Good morning, folks. This is Real with Robo. You have to forgive me. I had my back done yesterday, and so I'm kind of achy all over. Um, I'd like to discuss two things today and see what y'all think of the crazy lady throwing this out at you. First of all, I'm here to say that Derek Chauvin, the officer in question in the George Floyd case, his charges have been raised to second-degree murder. And also the other three cops that were there, or was it four? I think it was three. The other three cops that were there, or four cops, they're all facing charges now too. Now this is my problem with that. I don't have a problem with what they're being charged with or that they're being charged. Don't have a problem with that. Here's my problem. My problem is that people that are short-sighted and small-minded are going to look at this and say, oh, because we rioted, burned down stores, destroyed stuff like they normally do, it made the charges get raised up. And other people get forced to take responsibility for their actions. Now, it wasn't because of the riots. And it wasn't because of the protest. If y'all would have gave it like a week before you lost your minds, which you didn't, you gave it like 8 hours.
If that.
The justice system would have figured it all out. And quicker, might I add. It wouldn't have taken a week and a half of destroying property and killing people, innocent people, I might add. And no, I will never let you guys off the hook for that. Never, ever let you guys off the hook for that. In protests in Richmond, Virginia, well, I should say riots, because there were peaceful protests, but most of them were riots. They set a home on fire and then blocked the firemen from getting through. And there was a child in there. So now you're killing children. You're idiots. You're bullies. And you're freaking retarded. And that's my opinion on that. Now, number two, another thing I have with a problem with this is that Mr. Ellison is going to lead the charge for the prosecution. Mr. Ellison's son has already stated that he backs Antifa. Now, Antifa has been designated a terrorist organization. A good defense lawyer would bring that into account on appeal. That the prosecution harshly charged all of the defendants because they were terrorist sympathizers and connected with bad people. And so it was like a cover-up or something. I'm just playing devil's advocate right here, because if I could throw a case out with that involved, then I'm sure a defense lawyer who's been defending people all his life or her life could do the same thing. Now, I want to say something, and this is probably going to hurt a lot of feelings and probably, disgust a lot of other people. But I'm real with what I say. I'm 100% real. I don't hold back. I don't bite my tongue. I don't feel sympathy for anyone that doesn't deserve it. During these riots, there were many, many black businesses that were burned, looted, thrown down the street. And you know what? When they don't rebuild and come back to your area, don't get mad. Don't get mad. Especially at white people. Look what you've done. You burnt businesses literally to the ground. And the people that own those businesses aren't going to be able to afford the insurance to keep it in your community. Number 2, I see a lot of people using hashtags Black Lives Matter or No Lives Matter until Black Lives Matter. I wasn't aware that God died and made somebody, God. No one has the right to tell anyone that their life doesn't matter or does matter. No one. No one has the right to put a prerequisite on someone's life and how precious it is. Now, a lot of people are saying white people are just like, I'm sorry I was born white, and saying all that stuff because of these riots. I won't apologize that I'm white. I'm not going to apologize that I'm white-skinned. I'm not. And the reason I'm not is because I have a lot of mixed heritages that's running through my blood, and they refuse to be sorry for who I am. I'm not sorry. If you don't like it, then you just don't like it, and you're going to have to get the fuck over it. And that's just real. Number 2, a lot of black people like to say, well, it's because we were slaves at one point in time. And so our communities, are built on racism and hatred for black people. Really? Well, you know what? The Irish were slaves too. And you don't see them crying about it. You see them out working hard every day, going to a pub, going home, having a drink, going to bed, waking up, working hard every day. They were slaves once too. Why don't they act like the way you do? What about the Chinese people who built the American railroads? What about them? Why don't they act like you do? They were slaves. Their communities were built on the remembrance of slavery as well. Why? Because if you live in the past, you don't deserve the present, and you damn sure don't deserve the future. You want to live in the past? Live in the past. But don't bother us who are trying to get past that ugliness, past that hate. Do something about it and become united. Go meet up in a little secret room and keep your ugly to yourself. It wasn't because he was black that he was attacked. It was because he did a crime. And yes, they handled it wrong. And they should be held accountable. But I find it weird that every time somebody has something bad to say, it's always about white people. Yet you cry out about slavery, and yet nobody in America, none of these movements, this Black Lives Matter movement or any other movement, is trying to save the slaves from the slave market that's currently going on in Saudi Arabia and those countries where Muslims are literally fleeing refugees from Africa and putting them on the slave block. I don't even think a lot of people know about that. Where's your outrage there? Keep that energy. But as I said, and as I have always said, these people don't want to sit down with cops and come up with an actual valid solution. What they want to do is they want to stir the pot. And they want to find people that'll fall for it. And you know what? A lot of you people are falling for the okie doke hook, line, and sinker. As for me, I'm going to keep it real. I'm happy about these charges. I'm happy the other cops are being charged. I'm happy that they're being held accountable. I know it wasn't because of riots and the destruction and the violence. I know it was because the investigation went further. And I know for a fact that every time this happens, BLM will be out there in force. Antifa will be out there in force. Idiots will be out there in force. But I'm glad to see that this time there were at least a few peaceful protests where they utilized their constitutional right, not abused it. Where they went, they got a permit. They told the cops that they'd be there. They protested peacefully on the street, walked down the street, got out of the way of the cars, walked down the sidewalks peacefully. I didn't like that at some points that they were told, repeat after me. The only time you repeat after anybody is when you're taking an oath to defend the Constitution and America and Americans. Beyond that, there should not be an oath you swear allegiance to. There's only one thing I swear allegiance to, and that's my country and my flag. And that's Real with Robo.